Hello, Honors 100. I'm going to try to keep today's video lecture on the short side, in part because I went a little bit longer than I meant to in my last one, and in part also I'm recording this early, so I don't have my resources from the library yet, but I'm hopeful that the librarian I'm working with from our library is going to be sending me some materials and potentially even a short video of his own that they'll be adding in here, so I'm not going to bog us down too much with my own video lecture beyond that little preamble. A reminder, we do have a live session coming up on Friday at 11 a.m. So again, if you're able to, I strongly encourage you to try to attend. It's a good way for us to get some face time and especially to clear up any remaining confusions about the class, especially that annotated bibliography assignment. I've been getting some questions, individually related to it, and that's great. I'm happy to answer them that way. But I know for some folks, it's easiest just to talk, as face-to-face as we can get in this virtual learning kind of environment. And so I'd be happy to talk with you there if you're able to make it Friday at 11. I'll try to include all the login information later on in this post. I also did already message it out to everyone towards the tail end of last week, though, so you should have that information. But for the rest of today's video lecture, I'm going to focus just on the reading that we had assigned for today, this Gloria Bird passage. I'm going to cut to page 173 here to start. This is the first page of the actual reading itself after the more biographical information about Bird. And she has this epigraph that refers to, in the middle kind of line there, of an equation of colonization equals thingification. And I'm curious, what does that mean? What do we think of that? At least to my knowledge, thinkification isn't actually a real word, but I think we can nonetheless extrapolate what that might mean. So no wrong answers here. I think there's actually some room for interpretation, but I think based on what's written immediately in that epigraph and then beyond that in the Bird passage itself, we can make some educated guesses as to what's intended there. Beyond that, I want to cut it to page 175 here. And there's this passage that we get here. Actually, first I want to go to the very first paragraph, trails off from 174 into 175, where it talks about the Spokane, where we're considered hostile, as were all tribal groups who refused to sign treaties, an act of resistance that would inevitably lead to reduced land holdings and confine them to a reservation. This word hostile, I expect that's a word in just about everyone's vocabulary, but it's put in quotation marks here, and I think that the Bird is calling attention to it for that reason, and I'm curious as to what sense we can make of that. Why is she putting hostile in quotation marks? What does the term hostile mean in this context? Beyond that, there's this big kind of cutaway pull quote passage here from President Ronald Reagan that Bird expresses some offense at, right? And Reagan is sort of speaking about reservations and about what he describes as American Indians, what we now today would probably more likely refer to as either Native Americans or indigenous people. But talks about reservations and what he calls preservations and about what we've allowed Native people to do. And Bird takes some pretty serious exception to the way that Reagan has sort of portrayed all of this. I'll show my hand. I'm inclined to agree with Bird that this is sort of problematic with what the president's saying at this point in history. But why would we say that? Why is that problematic? Why are we sort of interested in that? Cutting ahead here to page 180 as well. There's this quote here, which it's such a dense quote, but I think it's such an important one in this text. And it's towards the end of this, the second full paragraph looks like kind of the third paragraph on the page here. But she raises the point to not hesitate to question, am I the product of my own assimilation, the mnemonic device of hegemonic order? Wow. What a question. Am I the product of my own assimilation, the mnemonic device of hegemonic order? I'm struggling to pronounce it. With this, there's some big words packed in there, right? And many, if not all, which I expect that many of you know from your own experience, but I want to unpack that a little bit. Assimilation. So this idea of assimilating something, of taking it in, of making it a part of the group, right? So am I a product of my own assimilation? Is Bird a product of being made into this larger culture that she's kind of been assimilated into? The mnemonic device. I've had a number of students in the past say, oh, I know that word mnemonic, but I didn't recognize it on the page. Mnemonic being the way we learn something, the way we kind of easily retain some sort of information, right? So if I say Roy G. Biv, for example, I expect many of you remember from earlier in your schooling that those are the colors of the rainbow, or the colors of the color spectrum, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? I can even remember that from my own education, some 20, 25, whatever. I don't even want to get into my age here, but many years ago, right? I still remember Roy G. Biv. Mnemonic devices help us remember things. So, my product, my own assimilation, the mnemonic device of a hegemonic order, the hegemony, the idea of kind of what the status quo is, what the general thinking is, what the pervading culture is, my own assimilation, a way of remembering the way that we're supposed to think of things, the dominant culture, right? It's a super dense little sentence, little question there that I think that it packs in all of that meaning, and I'm curious to reactions to it of what we make of that, and then more broadly. I used to combine, in some ways, this bird reading with the Klosterman reading we had from last time, which in some ways I'm sure seems absurd because the writing style is so different. The concerns they're talking about are so different. I would suggest there is some meaningful overlap in terms of this idea of playing a part, right? Of kind of being assimilated into something, whether it's conscious or unconscious, but sort of playing the role of the indigenous person as Bird kind of portrays it. What Klosterman had to say about sort of playing these roles of like, I'm going to be the Chandler in this relationship to your Monica, or I'm going to try to live up to his expectation that's unrealistic that movies or music have set up for us. I think there actually is some meaningful overlap in the central ideas that these two authors are grappling with, despite the fact they're talking about really different things in really different ways. So I'm curious to see how people might unpack that a little bit further as well. But okay, so if I don't get those materials from the library, this is going to be a relatively short class discussion. Enjoy it. Take advantage of that extra time, and we'll get the library stuff next time if I don't have it in time to post with today's class. But if we do have it, please also be sure to watch that video as well and engage with those resources, and we'll unpack that a little bit further in the discussion thread as well. But thanks as always for watching, and I'll catch you next time.